You're worthless. You've always been worthless. The words tore through the baby monitor I'd forgotten to turn off. My stepmom Carol's voice dripping with venom I'd heard 1,000 times before. But this time was different. This time my dad's voice followed, quiet but clear. Just sign here, Robert. We'll have her room cleared by the weekend. Madison needs the space. I froze in the hallway of my childhood home, hand gripping the doorframe so hard my knuckles went white. Then came the voice that shattered everything. My cousin Jessica, the one I'd shared secrets with since we were 5, laughed. God, Carol, I can't believe it took you this long. Sarah's so pathetic, she probably won't even fight it. We've been planning this for what, 3 months now? I'm Sarah Mitchell, 31 years old, and I run a supply chain consulting firm in Seattle that pulls in $4.8 million annually. But that Thursday afternoon, standing in that hallway listening to my family plot my destruction, I was back to being that 19-year-old girl they threw away like garbage. My mother Emily died when I was 17, a head-on collision on I-5 that took her instantly. 8 months later, Dad brought Carol home. 8 months. Mum's perfume still lingered in the master bathroom when this woman moved in with her designer luggage and her entitled teenage daughter, Madison. Hello, beloved listeners. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I'm always curious to know which corners of the world you're tuning in from. Let me know your city in the comments. Enjoy the story. What I did next made them lose everything. But let me take you back to where this nightmare really started. Our house in Redmond, Washington had been my sanctuary before Carol entered the picture. Mum and I would bake sourdough every Saturday morning, the kitchen windows fogged with steam, flour dusting every surface. She taught me to balance her checkbook when I was 12, explaining compound interest over hot chocolate with those little marshmallows she bought in bulk from Costco. Dad, Robert Mitchell, worked as a regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company, pulling in $140,000 a year, enough to keep us comfortable in our 4-bedroom split level with the cedar siding and the Japanese maple out front that turned brilliant red every October. He'd come home smelling like rental car air freshener and hotel soap, loosen his tie, and listen to Mum talk about her day managing the local credit union branch. They were solid. We were solid. The crash happened on a Tuesday. Mum was driving home from a branch manager conference in Olympia when a semi crossed the median. The Washington State Patrol officer said she didn't suffer. Dad fell apart. For 3 months he barely spoke, just went through the motions at work, came home and sat in the garage staring at Mum's gardening tools still hanging on the pegboard. I stepped up. At 17, I was cooking dinners from Mum's recipe cards stained with tomato sauce and vanilla extract, paying the utility bills online using the password she'd written in the back of the address book, making sure Dad ate at least one real meal a day. We grieved together in that quiet house, 2 people trying to fill a mom-sized hole. Then Carol appeared. Dad met her at a pharmaceutical industry mixer in Seattle, some rooftop event at a hotel near Pike Place Market. She was a personal shopper at Nordstrom, 35 years old, with salon-perfect highlights and a wardrobe that screamed Bloomingdale's sale rack. He brought her to the house for the first time on a Sunday afternoon without warning. I was studying for a P-calculus at the kitchen table when they walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood Mum had insisted we installed 3 years earlier. "Sarah, this is Carol," Dad said, his voice carrying a nervousness I'd never heard. "And this is her daughter, Madison." Madison was 15, 2 years younger than me, wearing a juicy couture tracksuit that probably cost more than my entire closet. She looked around our house like she was evaluating real estate, lips pursed. Carol smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Robert's told me so much about you. What a cozy little home you have here. Little? A 2,400 square foot house with the view of the Cascades on clear days was little." They moved in 4 months later. Dad didn't ask me, just announced it over takeout Thai food from the place Mum used to love. "Carol and Madison need a fresh start, and we have the room. It'll be good for all of us." I nodded because what else could I do? I was 18, still in high school, nowhere to go. The changes started immediately. Carol replaced Mum's floral curtains with minimalist grey panels from West Elm. She donated Mum's cookbook collection to Goodwill without asking, 3 shelves of spiral-bound community recipes and grease-stained Betty Crocker editions. Madison took over the guest room, complaining loudly about the outdated furniture until Dad bought her a complete bedroom set from Pottery Barn Teen. $4,200 charged to a credit card I'd later discover. My role shifted from daughter to unpaid household staff. Carol worked part-time, maybe 20 hours a week, helping wealthy clients pick out designer handbags, but acted like she was running a Fortune 500 company. She'd leave lists on the kitchen counter, tasks written in her aggressive cursive. Sarah, scrub bathroom grout, vacuum all floors, prep dinner for 6 p.m., pick up Madison's dry cleaning. I was still in school, plus working afternoons at a local coffee shop called Daily Grind for $8.50 an hour plus tips, trying to save for community college. I'd come home exhausted, espresso smell embedded in my hair, and find Carol on the couch watching Real Housewives while the kitchen sink overflowed with her lunch dishes. Dad saw it. I know he did. But he'd just smile weakly when I brought it up. Carol's adjusting, Sarah. Give her time. She's been through a lot with Madison's father leaving. So had I. I wanted to scream. I lost my mother. You lost your wife, but we're supposed to cater to Carol's adjustment. Madison treated our home like a hotel. She'd blast music until midnight, leave makeup smeared on bathroom counters, order DoorDash on Dad's credit card 3 times a day. When I asked her to quiet down so I could study, she laughed. It's not your house anymore, Sarah. Get used to it. Carol backed her up every time. Madison's going through a difficult age. Be more understanding. Meanwhile, Madison received $400 weekly allowances, while I scraped together tips to buy gas for the 1998 Honda Civic Mum had left me. The financial disparities were staggering and deliberate. But the real poison came from my cousin Jessica. We'd grown up together, daughters of sisters, spent every summer at Lake Chelan swimming and sharing secrets on the dock. Jessica was 2 years older, worked as a receptionist at a dental office in Bellevue, and always seemed jealous of the close relationship I had with my mum. After Mum died, Jessica started spending more time at our house, ostensibly to support me. But I noticed her gravitating toward Carol, whispering in corners, their laughter cutting off when I entered rooms. 6 months after Carol moved in, Jessica told me over coffee at a Starbucks near her work that Carol was exactly what your dad needs. Someone practical. Practical meant controlling. It meant erasing Mum's memory from every corner of that house. When I tried to keep Mum's vintage sewing machine in my room, Carol complained it was clutter, and Dad made me put it in the basement. It's probably still down there, buried under plastic storage bins. The breaking point came on a Tuesday when I was 19. I graduated high school, deferred college for a year to save money, and was working full-time at the coffee shop plus weekend shifts at a Target in Kirkland, $12 an hour stocking shelves. I paid $450 monthly toward household expenses because Carol said my presence cost them money. Electricity, water, food. Even though I bought my own groceries and kept them in a mini fridge in my room after Madison kept eating everything I purchased. I came home early that Thursday because my shift got cut. Car trouble at the coffee shop, something about the espresso machine flooding the back room. I was walking toward my bedroom when I heard voices through the baby monitor we'd installed last year when Dad's elderly mother visited and needed monitoring during her afternoon naps. They'd never turned it off, and the receiver sat on the hallway table. Carol's voice came through crystal clear. You're worthless. You've always been worthless. She wasn't talking to me directly, but about me to someone in the master bedroom. I crept closer, heart hammering. Dad spoke next. I know it's been hard on you, having her here. Madison needs that room for her closet expansion. Sarah's an adult now. She can figure it out. My stomach dropped. My room. They wanted my room. For Madison's clothes. Just sign here, Robert, Carol said, papers rustling. The lawyer said once you sign the updated will, everything goes to Madison. Sarah's not entitled to Emily's portion anymore. Emily, my mother, her name in Carol's mouth felt like desecration. The $280,000 from Emily's mother will set Madison up nicely for college and beyond. Sarah's working. She'll be fine. Then Jessica's voice, gleeful and sharp. God, Carol, I can't believe it took you this long. Sarah's so pathetic she probably won't even fight it. We've been planning this for, 3 months now? 3 months. They'd been conspiring for 3 months. My cousin. My father. My stepmother. I pressed my back against the wall, phone in my shaking hand, and hit record on the voice memo app. For the next 8 minutes, they detailed everything. How Carol convinced Dad that I was a financial burden despite my contributions. How Jessica spread rumors to extended family that I was stealing from Dad's wallet. Complete fabrication. How they'd already contacted a real estate attorney about transferring the house deed to exclude me from any future inheritance. How Madison would get my room next weekend while I was scheduled for a double shift at Target. They laughed. Actually laughed about timing it perfectly. I stopped the recording, backed away silently, and went to my car. My hands trembled so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove to the coffee shop, sat in the parking lot, and played the recording 3 times. Each playback felt like a punch to the chest. That evening, I returned home and acted normal. Smiled at dinner. A tense affair where Carol served overcooked chicken and undercooked rice while Madison scrolled through Instagram. Dad asked about my day. I lied smoothly. Same old, same old. Jessica texted me later that night. Coffee this weekend? Miss Euchre's. I stared at that message for 10 minutes before deleting it. Friday morning, I called in sick to both jobs. I had $2,847 in my checking account, $582 in savings, a car with 187,000 miles on it, and nowhere to go. Then I remembered Mum's sister, Linda Harper, who lived in Portland. Aunt Linda was Mum's opposite in many ways. Bold where Mum was gentle. Corporate career woman who retired at 55 as a VP of logistics for a freight company after a 30-year climb. She'd attended Mum's funeral in a sharp black suit, pulled me aside afterward, and pressed a business card into my hand. You ever need anything, Sarah? Anything at all. I'm 2 hours south. I've tucked that card into my wallet and never used it. Until now. I called her from the car, voice breaking. Aunt Linda? It's Sarah. I need help. She didn't hesitate. Pack your essentials. Leave the rest. Be here by dark. I went home during Dad's work hours, Carol's shopping hours, Madison's school hours. Filled 2 suitcases with clothes, my laptop, important documents. Mum's jewelry box I'd hidden in a tampon box under my bathroom sink where Carol would never look, and the baby monitor receiver. I left the house key on the kitchen counter with a note. Don't contact me. I know everything. Then I drove to Portland. I-5 stretching ahead like an escape route, the Civic's engine rattling but holding steady. Aunt Linda met me at her condo door in the Pearl District, a sleek 2-bedroom with industrial exposed beams and floor-to-ceiling windows. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug that smelled like her signature Chanel perfume. Tell me everything. I played her the recording. Her expression went from shock to fury in seconds. When it finished, she poured 2 glasses of wine despite me being only 19. You're going to rebuild. And when you're strong enough, you're going to make them regret every single word that night. She showed me the guest room, already made up with fresh linens. Stay as long as you need. No rent, but you're going to school. Portland became my blank canvas. Aunt Linda had connections everywhere from her logistics career. She introduced me to a friend who managed warehousing for Amazon's distribution center in Troutdale. I interviewed on a Monday, got hired for night shift warehouse associate position by Wednesday. $16 an hour, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., loading trucks and scanning packages until my feet screamed. It was brutal work, but it paid $2,560 monthly before taxes, enough to start saving again. Aunt Linda insisted I enroll at Portland State University for winter term, logistics, and supply chain management program. The world runs on moving things from point A to point B efficiently. You'll learn that you'll always have leverage. I applied, got accepted, and started classes in January using a combination of financial aid, a small private loan from Aunt Linda at 0 interest, and my Amazon wages. The first year was a blur of work and study. I'd sleep from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., attend classes from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., work 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., repeat. My GPA held at 3.7, despite the insane schedule. Aunt Linda checked in weekly, brought me meal prep containers filled with roasted vegetables and grilled chicken, refused to let me slip. Your mother would be so proud, she'd say, and I'd have to lock myself in the bathroom to cry where she couldn't see. Back in Redmond, my phone exploded with messages for the first 3 weeks. Dad called 47 times. Carol left voicemails ranging from fake concern to outright hostile. Sarah, come home. We can talk about this. Then you're being childish and dramatic. Jessica sent texts playing innocent. What happened? Everyone's worried. I blocked all of them after forwarding the recording to my personal email and a cloud backup. Evidence secured. By the end of year 1, I'd saved $11,400, finished 2 terms with honors, and caught the attention of a logistics professor named Dr. Raymond Chun, who'd worked for Nike before teaching. He pulled me aside after a presentation I gave on inventory optimization. "You have instinct for this. Have you considered internships?" I hadn't, because I was barely surviving, but Dr. Chun connected me with Nike's supply chain internship program. I applied, interviewed in a borrowed blazer from Aunt Linda's closet, and somehow landed a summer position. $22 an hour, 40 hours a week, working in their Beaverton headquarters, analyzing shipment data. That summer changed everything. I wasn't just moving boxes anymore. I was seeing the entire system. How a shoe manufactured in Vietnam reached a store in Atlanta in 18 days. The dance of freight forwarders and customs brokers and last-mile carriers. Nike offered me a full-time junior analyst position at the end of the internship. I was 21, still a year from graduating, but they wanted me to go part-time with school and full-time with work. $62,000 annual salary, benefits, 401k match. The works. I nearly cried when they handed me the offer letter. Aunt Linda took me to dinner at a steakhouse on the waterfront, ordered champagne, and toasted. "This is what winning looks like, Sarah." Slowly, then all at once. I graduated Portland State at 23 with a degree in supply chain management. Zero debt, thanks to scholarships and Amazon money, and 2 years of Nike experience under my belt. They promoted me to supply chain analyst with a bump to $71,000. I moved into my own apartment in Southeast Portland, a modest 1-bedroom for $1,200 monthly, and started actually living instead of just surviving. But I wasn't satisfied. Corporate life felt safe, but I wanted more. I wanted to build something that was mine, something nobody could take away. At 25, I attended a supply chain conference in Seattle, the first time I'd been back to Washington in 6 years. I sat in on a panel about a AI-driven inventory prediction, and it clicked. Most small to mid-sized companies couldn't afford enterprise-level supply chain optimization. They were bleeding money through overstocking, understocking, inefficient routing. I could fix that. I spent the next 6 months building a business plan in my spare time. Nights and weekends, I created financial projections, identified target clients, researched competitors. Aunt Linda read every draft, asked hard questions, poked holes until the plan was bulletproof. When I told her I wanted to quit Nike and start my own consulting firm, she didn't blink. "How much do you need?" I'd saved $38,000 from Nike paychecks, living frugally and investing aggressively. About $45,000 to start lean. Cover 6 months of operating costs, basic tech stack, legal fees, marketing. She wrote a check for $15,000. Not a gift. It's a loan. 0 interest. Pay me back when you're profitable. I resigned from Nike on my 26th birthday. My manager tried to counter-offer $95,000 and a senior title, but I was done working for someone else's vision. I registered Mitchell's Supply Solutions as an LLC in Oregon, built a website using a $200 template from ThemeForest, and started cold calling companies. The first 3 months were terrifying. I landed one tiny client, a boutique outdoor gear company in Eugene. $3,500 project to optimize their warehouse layout. It took me 80 hours. I basically made $43 an hour, but they loved the results. Their pick-and-pack efficiency improved 34% in the first quarter. They referred me to 2 other companies. By month 6, I had 6 active clients and $47,000 in revenue. I hired my first employee, a Portland State grad named Marcus, who'd been in my operations research class. He worked part-time handling data analysis while I focused on client relationships and strategy. By year 1, Mitchell's Supply Solutions hit $280,000 in revenue with 11 clients, ranging from craft breweries to small electronics manufacturers. Year 2 exploded. I landed a contract with a mid-size apparel company, $85,000 project to overhaul their entire fulfillment process from manufacturer to retail. The results were staggering. They cut delivery times by 22%, reduced warehouse costs by $340,000 annually, and their inventory accuracy improved from 87% to 98.5%. They gave me a glowing case study I plastered all over my website. Suddenly, I had inbound leads. Companies were finding me through Google, through referrals, through industry publications, picking up my success stories. I hired 2 more analysts, rented actual office space in a converted warehouse near the Willamette River. $2,800 monthly for 1,500 square feet, with exposed brick and good natural light. Revenue hit $890,000 that second year. I paid Aunt Linda back her $15,000 plus 10% because she'd earned it. By 28, I had 9 employees, a growing client roster, and gross revenue pushing $2.3 million. I incorporated as an S-Corp, brought on a part-time CFO to clean up my books, and started speaking at industry conferences. At 29, I signed the deal that changed everything. A major e-commerce platform, think Wayfair size, was struggling with last-mile delivery inefficiencies. Their products were arriving late, damaged, to wrong addresses. They were hemorrhaging customer trust. They put out an RFP to consulting firms, and I bid against companies 10 times my size. My proposal was aggressive, data-driven, and promised measurable results within 90 days. I quoted $2.1 million for a 1-year engagement. They picked me. That contract alone covered my entire team's salaries for the year plus healthy profit. We delivered. Their on-time delivery rate jumped from 81% to 96% in the first quarter. They renewed for a second year at $2.4 million. At 30, Mitchell Supply Solutions was pulling $4.2 million annually with 18 full-time employees. I moved the office to larger space in the Pearl District, 4,000 square feet, with a real conference room and a kitchen with an espresso machine nicer than the one I'd used at Daily Grind a decade earlier. I bought a loft in Capitol Hill in Seattle, $680,000 paid in cash from business profits, 1,800 square feet, with views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains. Aunt Linda flew up for the housewarming, walked through every room, and cried. Your mother would burst with pride. I'd thought about my family exactly 0 times during those years of building. I deleted their numbers, blocked their emails, avoided Redmond like it was radioactive. But at 31, that changed. The Seattle Times ran a feature on Pacific Northwest entrepreneurs under 35. A reporter had found me through the e-commerce client, interviewed me over coffee, and wrote a glowing 2,000-word profile. Sarah Mitchell, 31. Turned warehouse analysis into a multi-million-dollar consulting empire. The piece ran on a Sunday in the business section, complete with a professional photo of me in my office, standing in front of a whiteboard covered in supply chain diagram. It went online the same day. By Monday morning, my firm's website traffic spiked 400%. By Tuesday, I had 17 new sales inquiries. By Wednesday, my phone rang from a Seattle area code I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity maybe, made me pick up. Sarah? My father's voice, older, tentative. I hadn't heard it in 12 years. How did you get this number? My tone was ice. Your office answered. Sarah, I saw the article. I had no idea you were doing so well. I'm so proud. Proud. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. What do you want? Silence stretched. Then he cleared his throat. Can we meet? I'm in Seattle. Just to talk. I should have said no. Should have hung up and blocked another number. But I wanted to see him squirm. Fine. Tomorrow. My office. 2 p.m. Come alone. He agreed instantly. The next day, I watched from my office window as a grey Toyota Camry pulled into the visitor parking. My father stepped out, moving slower than I remembered, his hair more grey than brown now, shoulders hunched. He wore a wrinkled polo shirt and khakis that had seen better days. He looked diminished. He checked in with reception, and my assistant buzzed me. Your 2 p.m. is here. I let him wait 10 minutes, power play, then walked out. He stood when he saw me, attempted a smile that didn't quite land. Sarah, you look successful. I gestured to the conference room, glass walls, professional space. He followed like a scolded child. We sat across from each other. I didn't offer water, coffee, nothing. You have 10 minutes. Talk. He folded his hands, knuckles white. I know I failed you. After your mother died, I wasn't myself. Carol seemed like a lifeline, but I was wrong. Madison is difficult. Carol is difficult. I should have protected you. 12 years too late for that epiphany. Why are you really here? His eyes darted away. We need help. Financial help. There it was. How much? He winced. $175,000. I actually laughed, sharp and bitter. For what? He launched into a story. Gambling debts at the Tula Lip and Snoqualmie casinos, $340,000 he owed to some very serious people. Carol's medical expenses, surgeries she needed desperately, Jessica's business venture that needed capital, Madison's college loans. The house was mortgaged to the hilt, about to go into foreclosure. They'd tried everything, but he remembered seeing my article, realized I'd done well. Thought maybe family could help family. Is Carol outside? I asked quietly. He nodded. And Jessica, another nod. Bring them in. He looked confused, but went to the lobby. Moments later, all three filed into my conference room. Carol looked almost the same, maybe more Botox around the eyes, wearing a designer knockoff dress. Jessica wore business casual, her smile forced. They sat, and the air filled with false warmth. Sarah, you look amazing, Carol gushed. We've missed you so much. Jessica chimed in. It's been too long, 'cause I thought about you constantly. I let them talk, watched them perform their concern and affection, a choreographed routine they'd probably practiced in the car. When they finally stopped, I opened my laptop, turned it to face them, and hit play. The recording from 12 years ago filled the conference room. Carol's voice. You're worthless. You've always been worthless. Dad's just sign here. Sarah's an adult now. She can figure it out. Jessica's. We've been planning this for what, 3 months now? The blood drained from their faces. Carol stammered. Where did you get that? I stopped the playback. Baby monitor. You never turned it off. I pulled out a folder, placed it on the table. Inside were documents, beautifully organized. Bank statements showing Dad's $340,000 gambling debt, exact balances from multiple casinos. Carol's credit card bills, $95,000 charged over 2 years to plastic surgeons in Bellevue and Seattle. Procedures like breast augmentation, facial fillers, liposuction, nothing remotely medically necessary. Jessica's public records, 5 small claims court cases filed against her by elderly family members, totaling $60,000 in fraudulent loans she never repaid. Madison's credit report, 3 collection accounts, $28,000 in defaulted private student loans. Here's what's interesting, I said, voice calm. The house in Redmond, 4,228 185th Avenue Northeast. It went into foreclosure 6 months ago. The bank initiated proceedings. You were about to lose it. Carol's hands trembled. We were trying to save it. I smiled. I know. That's why I bought the mortgage. The room went dead silent. 3 months ago, through an LLC called Harper Holdings, I purchased your defaulted mortgage from the bank. $287,000. I now hold the deed. The house you wanted to kick me out of? I own it. Dad's face crumbled. Sarah, please, I continued. Jessica, those 5 fraud cases? I contacted each victim. Offered to pay their restitution if they'd file criminal complaints with evidence instead of just civil claims. 4 of them agreed. I've already forwarded everything to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. You're looking at wire fraud charges federal. Jessica's eyes went wide. You can't do that. I absolutely can. And Carol, I turned to her. Your medical expenses you claimed were urgent? I pulled insurance records. Every procedure was cosmetic and elective. You tried to commit insurance fraud by coding them as medically necessary. I've reported that to the state insurance commissioner. Carol stood, voice rising. You vindictive little bitch. My assistant appeared at the conference room door instantly, alerted by the yelling. Behind her stood 2 security guards from the building. Miss Mitchell, everything all right? I nodded. Yes. These people are leaving. Permanently. I pulled final documents from my briefcase, 3 restraining orders signed by a judge that morning. These are effective immediately. None of you are allowed within 500 feet of me, my home, my office, or any property I own. Violate it, you'll be arrested. I slid them across the table. Dad tried one last plea. Sarah, We're blood. Family forgives. I stood, looked him dead in the eye. You chose Carol over me when I was 19 and grieving. You signed away Mum's inheritance that was meant for me. You stood silent while your wife called me worthless. We stopped being family the day you let them destroy me. I turned to the guards. Please escort them out. They moved in, professionally but firmly. Carol was crying, mascara running. Jessica was pale, silent. Dad looked like he'd aged 20 years in 20 minutes. They shuffled out, past my employees who'd gathered in the hallway, curious about the commotion. The glass doors closed behind them, and I watched through the window as they climbed into that grey Camry and drove away. My assistant Emma, a sharp 26-year-old I'd hired fresh out of Oregon State, approached carefully. You okay? I nodded. Better than I've been in years. That evening, Aunt Linda called. I'd texted her immediately after. You did it, she said, voice thick with emotion. You protected yourself. The next morning, I contacted my real estate attorney and started foreclosure proceedings on the Redmond house. 4228 185th Avenue Northeast would be sold at public auction. I also followed through on the criminal complaints. Jessica was indicted by a federal grand jury 4 months later on 5 counts of wire fraud. She pled guilty to 2, accepted 18 months in federal prison, 5 years supervised release, and restitution orders totaling $85,000. Carol's insurance fraud case went to the state attorney general, resulting in $15,000 in fines and permanent revocation of her insurance license for fraudulent claims. Dad's gambling debts I let collapse on their own. The house sold at auction 6 months after my office confrontation. I attended virtually, watched the bidding through a laptop screen. It went for $340,000, half of its $680,000 market value, bought by a developer who planned to tear it down and rebuild. Perfect. I used my LLC to donate the proceeds. After paying off the mortgage balance to a local nonprofit in Seattle that built transitional housing for homeless youth. The donation was made in memory of Emily Mitchell, my mother. The organization put a small plaque in their main building. Emily Mitchell Memorial Fund, donated by her loving daughter Sarah. Mum would have liked that. Carol and Dad divorced 8 months later. She filed, citing irreconcilable differences, which was code for, "You're broke and useless to me now." Carol moved to Spokane, tried to latch onto a dentist she met on Bumble, married him 3 months later. He discovered her spending habits and fraudulent history in 6 weeks and filed for annulment. Last I heard through mutual connections, she was renting a room in a shared house, working reception at a chiropractor's office for $16 an hour. Dad declared personal bankruptcy, Chapter 7, wiping out everything except the gambling debts, which are non-dischargeable. He lost his pharmaceutical sales job due to the stress citations. 3 unexcused absences during the foreclosure proceedings. He works now as a night manager at a Shell station in Renton. $2,800 monthly before taxes, living in a studio apartment he can barely afford. Madison, who'd been a peripheral character in all this, tried reaching out to me on LinkedIn a year after the confrontation. Her message was pathetic. Hi Sarah, I know things have been complicated, but I was wondering if Mitchell's Supply Solutions is hiring. I have a degree in communications and I'm a hard worker. I blocked her without responding. She's 27 now, still unemployed according to her sporadically updated social media. Living with friends, posting inspirational quotes about manifesting abundance while asking for Venmo donations. Jessica served her 18 months at FCI Dublin in California, a low-security federal prison. She was released last year, moved back to Washington, and now works at a call center in Tacoma, making $19 an hour with restricted financial access due to her probation terms. She can't open credit cards, can't access loans, can't work in any financial services role. Her social media presence vanished completely. I've moved on in every measurable way. Mitchell's Supply Solutions hit $8.3 million in revenue last year. I opened a satellite office in Vancouver, British Columbia to handle Canadian clients, hired 34 full-time employees, and established an advisory board that includes Aunt Linda as a permanent member. I created the Emily Mitchell Scholarship Fund, $500,000 endowment, providing full-ride scholarships to first-generation college students who've lost a parent and want to study supply chain management or logistics. 4 students received it last year. On a personal front, I met Derek at a Seattle entrepreneur networking event 2 years ago. He's an architect, 34, runs his own small firm designing sustainable residential homes. We bonded over shared stories of building businesses from scratch, late nights fueled by coffee and stubbornness. He proposed last December on a weekend trip to the San Juan Islands, simple and perfect on a rocky beach at sunset. We're getting married next spring in a small ceremony, 40 people, mostly colleagues and friends. Aunt Linda is walking me down the aisle. We bought 12 acres outside North Bend, Washington, forested property with a creek running through it. Derek's designing a modern cabin for us, and we're planning to build a small retreat center on the land for young entrepreneurs, workshops, and mentorship programs. A place where people who've been told they're worthless can come and build something extraordinary. I drive past Redmond sometimes when business takes me to the east side. I never stop. The lot where 4228 185th Avenue Northeast once stood is now a construction site, new townhomes going up, the Japanese maple long gone. I don't feel anything looking at it. No sadness, no anger, just nothing. That house stopped being home the moment Carol walked through the door. Home is the loft in Capitol Hill with Derek's architecture books scattered everywhere and Aunt Linda's weekly Sunday dinners. Home is my office in Seattle where my team builds solutions for clients across North America. Home is knowing that the family who destroyed me is living with the exact consequences they earned while I'm thriving beyond anything they could have imagined. The lesson I carry isn't complicated. When family weaponizes your grief, steals your inheritance, and conspires to erase you, forgiveness isn't noble. It's foolish. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. And success built on the ashes of their betrayal burns brighter and longer than any forced reconciliation ever could. I didn't need them to believe in me. I needed them out of my way. And once they were, I became everything they swore I'd never be. Thanks for staying through this entire story. What would you have done in my position? Have you ever had to cut out toxic family members to protect your future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more real stories about boundaries, justice, and building the life you deserve on your own terms. See you in the next one.